Hi, everyone. This is Kerristen, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Relocate Podcast. So, today we are going to switch it up a little bit, not too much, just ever so slight. This show is all about um, identity, finding identity within the midst of relocating from one place to another. It's all about adapting, standing up to the plate whenever challenges come your way as you're navigating the process of being in an unfamiliar place. We are going to talk about RV life because let's be real, at the end of the day, home is really what you make it. Home doesn't necessarily have to be having a roof, the traditional roof over your head. Um, and it has come to my attention that there are people who are listening out there who don't necessarily have that traditional type of roof over their head. And let's be real, everyone doesn't want that lifestyle anyways. And some people, they may actually never expected to have that type of lifestyle of not having that so-called traditional roof over their head. And whatever the situation may be, I just want to let you know that I hear you and I see you. And today we're going to talk about it.
That's
So, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, today I have Josh and Lola McCray. They are from the great state of South Carolina, just like me.
right.
And yeah, South Cat, and not North, because I'm tired of people asking me how's life living in North Carolina. I don't know. I ain't never been in North Carolina like that. Never lived there. All I could do is tell you about South Carolina. So, and Josh and Lola, they're gonna give you the scoop on their upbringing in South Carolina. They are a lovely couple, married with multiple children. Fur baby, we're gonna get into how they've been navigating the RV life and road schooling, and yeah, we just gonna get into it. It's gonna be a fun discussion. So, how are y'all, Josh and Lola?
I feel real good.
We are good. Yes, we're great.
Great. Fantastic.
That's great. And I'm gonna make sure too that I loop in how people can get in contact with you all, because Josh and Lola has multiple social media platforms that just document their lifestyle, living the McCray way. So everyone who's tuning in and they're enjoying this conversation, please plug into Josh and Lola's platforms and support them, and get to know something a little more different than the average way of living. So yeah. First question for you all. I'll tell the people a little bit more about where exactly in South Carolina you're from, and how was life just growing up there, because I don't think people also realize that you all kind of met in the same area. I didn't mention that, but y'all kind of just met in the same area. Can you talk a little bit about that and just how life was for you both living in, it was Andrews, right? South Carolina?
Andrews, yeah. You got it? You go. So we're from Andrews, South Carolina. So that would be an hour west of Myrtle Beach, and that would be 2 hours east of Columbia. So it's in the woods. It's in the sticks.
Yes.
It's a small town of probably 3,000 people. So one high school, 3 stoplights. Everybody kind of deal. And Lola and I, well, she's actually from Baltimore. She was born in Baltimore.
Born in Baltimore. Moved to South Carolina, still really trying to figure out why mom and dad did that. But there was a purpose at hand. And how we met, he grew up in the city. What small town people would classify the city. He grew up in the city. I grew up in the country. The school that I was going to.
I mean, I'm still a country now.
The school that I was going to, it was one of those schools where you went there from primary school and then you went to high school there also. So it was one school where everybody was all connected. And so that school, the education system was okay, but the school that he was going to in the citier part was a better education. So my parents wanted us to navigate to those schools. So we transferred schools, and when we transferred schools, I was in middle school.
Middle school, yeah.
So we actually kind of met in middle school, like our last year of middle school, but we didn't start dating until we got to high school.
Right.
And so it was because I navigated from one school to another, and us ended up meeting, and then from there.
So it was 10th grade when we started dating.
Yep, started dating in 10th grade.
And ever since, so that puts us at 15 years old.
Yep, we were about 14, 15 years old.
So I think this year it'll be 20 years together.
Yep, and this will be our 15th year of marriage.
Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, we got married in 2010.
Yeah.
And then once we got married in 2010, but we left once we graduated high school. We immediately left because we had already known that we did not want to stay in our small town where we grew up. So he joined the military. I went off to college, and then he came back after his basic training, and we got married in 2010.
Then now the big question.
Yep, and then right after we got married, I think we had been married a few days, and we left and we moved to California, and we've been gone ever since.
Gone ever since.
We only go back to visit family very so often.
Probably once a year.
Yeah, maybe once a year.
Maybe once.
But we left when we were 18 years old, and we didn't turn back.
Yeah, and in between that time, we have 4 children.
We have 4 children.
And 1 dog who is a year and a half old. Something like that.
So
What's the breed?
He is so we got him from the shelter. He's a border collie lab mix.
Yep. High energy. Oh my goodness.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so that's the beginning of the story. You know, South Carolina, small town, long time together. You know, still learning. That's the part of being with someone. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, first of all, congratulations on, 15 years of marriage. That's a very long time. And that's a testament to the bond and being able to withstand the ups and downs in life and still work together to find common ground and resilience throughout. So this is a beautiful story. Yeah. Your get out of South Carolina plan kind of sounds a lot like mine. Yeah, I was raised in a small town of like 500 people. I don't think we have stoplights to this day, to be honest with you. And I'm thinking very hard. I don't think there's a stoplight.
That's not Hardyville, is it?
Yeah, Harley. Not so. There's like a Hardyville and a Harleyville.
Yeah, Harleyville.
Oh, okay.
Not Hardyville, because I know what you think about. She said Harleyville. I know what she's talking about.
Yeah.
When she said it, I'm like, yeah. Go too fast, you might miss it.
Right. Yeah. Exit 77 on I-26.
Go too fast, you might miss it. Yeah.
Wait, I said 77. No, 177 on I-26.
Okay.
Little town has never changed, and I don't know what I would do if I would have never left. But I feel y'all on getting out of Dodge, however you did. I mean, the small town upbringing, it is a little humbling, I guess, if you think about it, compared to the life that we live now and the type of society that we're in. Yeah, but back then we weren't thinking about that. We were like,
no,
there's nothing here. Why
are we here? We wanted more.
Yeah.
We wanted more. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just curious before we kind of change the conversation. Right now there's just this whole debate and just debacle regarding Target and Walmart and boycotting these different places. And there's a topic of like food deserts, and some people may not have like the luxury of or the privilege to boycott certain areas because maybe
Yeah.
Walmart is the nearest grocery store or Target is the nearest grocery store. I know for me, the nearest, like Walmart wasn't, I never really heard of Walmart like that until maybe high school. And Walmart was over 30 minutes away.
Oh,
Same,
same for
Um,
us.
same
Same
for
for
us.
us. I think Walmart for us
Yeah.
was 30
like 25
yeah,
minutes.
25, 30
It's
minutes.
good- It's a good little ride.
It was a privilege
Yeah,
to go
right.
to
It's a
Walmart.
privilege.
Yeah.
yeah. When you think about like the RV life and kind of the lifestyle that you have now, are there moments from your upbringing that kind of is aiding you as you navigate like this lifestyle? Because I'm thinking like in my small town, we did a lot to kind of self-sustain. Um, we didn't really rely too much on like bigger like regional and national
Okay.
branded
Yeah.
like grocery stores and just stores period. It was kind of like it was giving a little bit of homestead vibes, but I'm wondering, like, are there moments from your childhood that you draw on to get you through the moments in which you navigate RV life?
I think what I always tell my kids that when you go somewhere and you see different people, meaning different colors, different genders, different races, you want to always have some common decency. My grandmother, both my grandmothers, they were around quite a bit, and they would always say, have a little bit of common decency in your life. 'Cause you never know who you're going to meet, and once you meet someone, you never know what may need down the road. Because with the RV life, we have met so many people from different races, different genders, different backgrounds, and black, white, Asian, Hispanic, and we met friends and have gained friends, have gained sisters and brothers. So it's like if you just have that common decency, no matter where you go, it's going to work out. It's going to help you out in the long run. And that from my childhood, it's always have manners,
Yeah.
be respectful. We tell our kids if someone doesn't speak, you speak and you just keep on walking and mind your business. Because everyone isn't going to be nice, but if you just have a little bit of common decency, that will carry you a long way.
I think
Right.
I'm thinking about the food part. Because in this RV life, everybody looks out for everybody. And it kind of reminds me of being from a small town because everybody looks out for everybody. If you need something, you can ask your neighbor might have it, and they're going to help you out. And the same as in RV life, because when we first got started, we didn't have all the knowledge, but there were people that were willing to help out. Right. They were willing to lend a hand and not looking for anything in return. So it kind of reminds us of that small town living because everybody's looking out for everybody.
Looking out, yeah.
If you need something, they got it, and vice versa. So it's like a community of people just ready to help each other.
Yeah. Now, we will say the RV community is probably one of the best communities that we've ever been a part of, rather than a neighborhood or or on your block, as they would say. This community is very everybody. Helpful. I scratch your back, you scratch mine.
Yeah.
Gosh, that sounds a lot like my childhood upbringing. I
small
tried
town.
to, yeah. Man, I had my episode where I talked about it a bit, just like my full story of how I was raised in South Carolina, how I ended up in Texas, where I am now. But I held back a bit because like a little bit of me wanted to protect kind of like my hometown and just like the pieces that are still there because so much is happening right now and I just don't want that to be impacted. But I have to draw back on that because we really did look out for each other. And I didn't know if that was just like my small town that did that or whether it extends to the other small towns in South Carolina or just like small towns in general. So I think that's cool that you mentioned that RV life is pretty similar in that aspect. Man, it was really to the point where when it came down to food, like my folks would barter,
Yeah,
every now and then. Like, hey, I got
yeah.
a pecan tree. You got some cake?
Oh
Barter.
yeah, yeah.
Right.
You want some pecans? Here you go. Like,
I mean, think about, back in the day, that's how it was back in the day, you know.
That's how they got.
There weren't grocery stores or every street. So if somebody got some chicken eggs and somebody got some
Flour.
cows or
Yeah.
whatever, hey, you swap it out.
Barter. Yeah.
Exactly. And our kids know
yeah.
that. Say, hey, if you meet a friend and like growing up, you got a piece of candy, you want to trade candies,
Yeah.
But that mindset is what we keep in mind with RV
Yes,
life. Like you said, if we need something and they got it across the pavement, hey, if you need it, if I got it, you got it.
Yeah.
Aw. Okay. Okay, I like this conversation. I like the way it's going so far. Now, you mentioned we're going to eventually hop back to the RV conversation, but I want to get a little deeper into your lifestyle before you pivoted into this space because you Josh, you were in the military. Thank you for your service, by the way. Lola, you went to college, and then you mentioned that you ended up in California.
Right.
And I know at some point you ended up in Florida. Can you speak to that journey? How was California? And then how did you end up in Florida?
Yeah. I would say when we got to San Diego, it was where I was based at. I know when I got there, my mindset was, I'm not going back to the East Coast.
That was my mindset too, because that was
that
my
West Coast vibe, man. I will say that West Coast vibe is oh man.
It's different.
I tell if you get over there, you're gonna love it. You're gonna enjoy it. Just the whole vibe. The hippie vibe, the free vibe. Everybody just want to it's like the peace era. But we got there and back in like 2010, and we were there for 3 years. And she was still going to school at the time, And the lifestyle was we were still. So how we live now was how we lived back then. We would always go explore different places. So the idea of having the mindset to explore was always there. So California, we lived in an apartment, of course. The Navy paid for it. And it was the same thing. I went to work, I did my shift, and come back home, and you would cook and eat. And then we had our daughter later on. But it was the same cycle. We go to work, come back home, cook, eat dinner. Next morning, same old thing. But every now and then, we would still go explore, whether it was the zoo or the museum or go down to the park or just walk on the beach. So the lifestyle, it was always outside or explore.
And then we moved.
And then so when I was done with...
Before we got to Florida, we moved to Washington State.
Yeah.
And we were there for about a year.
About a year.
Yeah, we were there for about a year. And then it was time for him to get out. He's ready to get out of the military, out of the Navy. And then he brought up the idea. He was like, well, I'm looking at schools to go to, and I found this school in Florida.
Well, first, take it back now. Hold on. Let me say my piece. First, when I got to California, I wanted to stay, for good. Right? So the Navy, of course, was going to pay for college, and I'll say, hey, I found a college in California. I said, I should stay out here, raise our family. But of course, she's a small town girl. I want to go back home to mama.
I got kind of homesick.
She got homesick.
I was like, let's go closer to family.
Right.
And now to this day, I think back on when I said that, and I'm now like, I don't even see family as much as back then when I said I wanted to be closer to family. I'm more so now like,
Yeah. No,
I can be further away from them now at this point. But at that time, I was like, let's go a little closer to family.
Right.
And so that's when he was like, well, there's another option. Yeah. And I found something in Florida. And so that's how we ended up in Jacksonville.
Right. Yeah. So I applied to college in Florida, got accepted, went to college there. got an apartment, of course, and same thing. Went to class and came back home, and ate dinner, and then we would still go fishing and hiking and exploring. So again, being outside and exploring was still always at the forefront. No matter where we were either going to explore somewhere or try something new. So we got to Jacksonville back in 2013, and then that's when I say I came with the mindset to go back into the military. So I went back into the Army, and I did that for about 6 years. And then, but Florida has always been home ever since 2013. And said the lifestyle is always the same. Like every average American, go to work, come back home, cook, watch the little TV, and
do it all over again.
Still doing the same thing, day in, day out.
Got it. Okay. You said home, because we're in this whole topic of, when I introduced you all, I mentioned that right now you're living RV life. Literally have an RV that you purchase, you own, you're in the RV.
Yeah.
But when you mentioned home back then, back in 2013, around that time, home was like that typical house with the roof over your head type home.
Oh yeah, I
guess apartment or what have you. Yeah. And you kind of mentioned hey, we lived the normal life, kind of like what everyone in America wants to do. They just want, not everybody. Ooh, let me take that back. Everybody doesn't want that. Everybody, that they don't want that. But that American dream has been kind of drilled into a lot of people's heads, especially people who are listening out there who are not from America, who may be thinking, well, actually, I don't know if y'all thinking about moving to America still, but back, before it got a little crazy, the American, to a lot of immigrants, they really do see and admire that aspect of the American dream. But I mean, what did the American dream mean to you, Josh and Lola, and what led to that breaking point of not wanting to align with those type of ideals?
So I think for us, the American dream was that basic: get married, have a family, eventually buy a house. Your kids go to school, they're in a traditional school setting. You work, you come home, you barely see each other, you get up and you do it all again, and that same old, doing the same thing that everybody else is doing. And for us, the breaking point was when we were living in a home and we were renting the house. COVID had come, and then during COVID, all the confusion happened with the landlords and the process with that. And then once our landlord told us that we could no longer rent the home that we were living in, and that we had days to evacuate the home and figure out what we were going to do with us and our children. I think for that, at that moment, I think that's when it hit us
what are we doing here?
This can't be life. This is supposed to be the American dream, where you're supposed to be able to figure it out, get back up on your feet, and do it all over again. But then we looked at each other and we were like, do we really want to do the same thing all over again?
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, I think this might be the time for us to break away from what we think is the American dream.
Yeah.
So with us having to get kicked out of that house and having to scramble and figure out where we were going to go, and then we ended up living in a hotel for about
5 to 6 months.
5 to 6 months. And I think with us being there, I sat down and I really was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want my kids to go through a cycle where every day I'm waking you up and taking you to school, and you see me for maybe hours out the day, and we're missing stuff, and we're not seeing each other as much. and it just got hectic. And then also with my job, because I was a teacher and having to see other people's children more than I saw my own children, I eventually got burnt out and I was eventually tired, and I looked at him and I said, what do you think about us buying an RV and doing something different?
Yeah. And when she said that, there was no question. It wasn't like, well, it was, we didn't have any knowledge on it, or we never been inside one before, or it was like, oh, where are we going to go with it? It was just like, all right, let's do it.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out along the way.
And that's what we did. We had no knowledge. We knew no one who had done it before us. We had no family members, because there are not many Black people who do this lifestyle. And so we were just like, okay, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. And so we went ahead and we found an RV. We purchased it. And we still, once we bought the RV, we still didn't know what we were going to do and where we were going to be in Jacksonville with the RV. But we had to slowly figure it out. Well, not slowly, but we had to figure it out. Yep. And then once we figured it out, it was kind of a relief, because we knew that we had that part of our life was ours. No one else could tell us, this is how you have to navigate. This is what you have to do. And I have to say over your life. So it was like we had our own lives in our hands. Right. And so the only part that was left was our jobs. And so I was still working. It was summertime. Right. And we were due to go back to school. And she was like, I looked at him and I was like, I don't think I want to go back. I don't really think I want to do this anymore. And he was like, well, quit. And so I just ended up quitting my teaching job. And then eventually we took the kids out of school and started homeschooling. And then this is where we've been ever since.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. And I think it goes back to when we got kicked out, because the plan was, of course, to buy a house, to buy the big house or the medium size. It doesn't matter, to buy the house. And one day we went looking at houses, to buy, and I was like, we're paying this amount of money for a small piece of yard. And I was like, I can't do that. If I want to buy some yard, some land, I need something a little bigger than what I'm paying for. In Jacksonville, your mortgage will be about $15,000 to $2,000 for a small piece of land that just wasn't going to cut it for me.
Very understandable. It sounds like a lot of places in America right now. And it just keeps getting more and more expensive to have a decent piece of land, or even have like let me tell you what I came across. Tiny homes are not so tiny anymore, but they still are trying to create this concept of like a tiny home-esque community. But in certain places, like in Austin, I've seen like the tiny homes, they cost just as much as a starter home.
Right.
Like the typical starter home in the South. And like the South, that's not Austin or not Texas, I guess. I don't even know. I don't consider Texas the South. Conversation for another day.
Right.
Conversation for another day. Yeah, it's getting crazy out here. So I mean, people just have to really do what works best for them and provide the most freedom. And even when you do buy a house, or a starter home, and you have the HOA. I never heard of HOA until I moved to Texas, because my folks, we had our own like land and house, and no HOA, and I just didn't know that was a thing. And for those who are listening who have never experienced that world, or don't know what a HOA is, it's just a group of people who live in the community, and they just kind of
want to be in charge.
You pay dues, and they just want to be in charge of everything and tell you what to do with your yard. And oh, your house is too dirty, clean it up on the outside. Oh, the shingles don't look right. Your grass is too dry. We're gonna charge you $10,000 if you don't figure out how to get your grass clean. It's gonna devalue it's gonna devalue the area if you don't fix the grass type stuff. So I hate that in this case, RV life was unexpected in a bit in a way.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It was yeah. Because I know sometimes people like that's really what they plan for, but that wasn't in the plans for you all at first, or
Not at
it
all.
just never was there. I mean, how did you even feel in that moment, like when life kind of threw that lemon at you? Oh, you can't stay in this house that you're renting anymore. You have to figure it out yourself. Like how, like
I
what
mean,
was going
when
through
I
your mind when that happened?
yeah, I think when I was at work and I came home, right, and there's a letter on the door, and I was like, really? And to get a letter and to say you have about a week to get out, school had just started, and it was like usually if you get evicted, you got 30 days or something like that, right? But nah, this cat was like, you got like a week to get out, and I was mad, I was infuriated, you know what I'm saying? But nothing I can do about it, because they fired the landlord who was our landlord. So our landlord got fired, and the folks who bought the house, they were the ones that said, "Hey, you got to get out." And yeah, I mean, something like that, you're gonna be mad, you're gonna be upset, you're gonna want to retaliate. But then again, there's nothing you can do about it. So that was a lesson for us to say someone has power over your life. And so when we took that and said, you know what, from now on,
But flip this. I want to be in control of my life.
yeah. How'd you feel about that?
At first, I was shocked because I'm the one who met the guy, and so when the guy came to the door, and the kids were like, "There's this random guy out there," and I was like, "Okay, I'm coming," and he was like, "This letter is for you." And I'm the new guy who's in charge of the house, and so I'm standing there like, "Is this a joke?" Like I was very shocked and confused at the same time because I was like, "Okay, you got to give me more than you're the new guy. Here's the letter, and this is what you got to do, because you can't tell me that." And I think for a moment I stood there with him, and I wasn't trying to be rude, but I looked at him and I said, "You're trying to tell me, a mom who has 4 kids, that she got to be out in this amount of time?" I said, "Sir," and I asked him, I remember asking him, I said, "Do you have kids?" And he said, "No." I said, "That's a short period of time to get out and to find a place for 6 people to stay." I was like, "Are you being serious?" And he was like, "But these are the stipulations and this is all I can give you." And I was like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Well, this is the world that we live in, and there's nothing that we as people can really do about it but to follow suit." And so in the back of my mind, for a while, that played in the back of my mind for a while. Then I kept thinking to myself, they just really told us get up and get out. It had no care for where we were going to go, how we were going to do it. They just wanted us to get out. And so I was shocked for a while. And I think that's when, once I came to my senses, I was like, forget this. I don't want to be told anymore that I got to get up and get out on somebody else's terms.
Yeah. And this happened, you said it was during the pandemic.
It was right after we started coming out of COVID. 2020. And that's when, I think that was like 2021. 21 was the year of 21 when COVID, we were just coming out of COVID. And that's when landlords were trying to figure out what they were going to do, because a lot of tenants were on hiatus from paying rent because they had that grace period. And landlords were trying to scramble, trying to figure it out. And right at that moment, that's when everything was kind of crazy. Right. So,
right. And we were paying rent on time.
I'm so sorry that happened to y'all. Y'all seem so sweet.
It happened. And we always look back at it now and say, everything happened.
He did us a favor.
There was a reason for that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So,
appreciate you.
Yeah. You know what, though? Now that you say that, like, this had to happen. So like it in a way it grew y'all closer together, I can imagine. It's making me think, gosh, I had this really a-hole when I've lived in a condo, not like people think condo like ooh fancy. No, it's just a little
You
typical apartment.
fancy, huh?
Yeah, it's just another.
Yeah, yeah, no. It's condo is just a fancy way of saying somebody owns like a apartment, um, a whole like not the whole complex, but like one apartment unit.
Right. Yeah.
And I thought like, hey, like I found this black lady who owned the apartment. I was like, ooh, or the condo. I was like, ooh, about to support black business. Like, I was happy living in the hood and
Yeah.
in Houston, and the complex. I mean, they still had like this HOA, and the one person on the HOA, like he was managing kind of like the grounds and stuff, and he was so rude. And I tried to move my a couch that I purchased into the apartment complex or into my unit, and um I think I used Thumbtack to hire a mover. And then the same day I had a friend of mine install like a TV on the wall, but the couch was so heavy that the movers needed help. So my friend
Okay.
helped,
Yeah.
and it was it was just crazy. Like they accidentally the the unit was so close to the gate, the entrance to the complex. Um, as they were moving the chair, they bumped the gate. The gate stopped working. The alarm went off. The gate wouldn't close or open or whatever. So the guy from the HOA came to check on it, but instead of him like looking at the cameras that we had in the area to figure out how everything happened, um, he just went to the mover and he was just like, "You hit the gate with your vehicle, and I'm gonna call the cops." And this was like back when, like a few weeks after George Floyd happened, and he just called the movers like everything out of their name. The movers were ready to fight. It was sad, and I came
Yeah.
outside because I heard the argument. I didn't know what happened, and once I heard what happened, I'm just like, no, sir. Like we, the couch accidentally bumped into the gate, or the gate accidentally. Actually, the gate bumped into the couch because the gate opened. Um, and it just kind of happened, collide at the same time. Accidents happen, but why you gotta be so crazy and rah rah about it and so rude about it? And like I felt like so little in that moment.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was like, what do I got to do to get out so I never have to face a situation like that again? If I got to make more money, um, find a better job, whatever, I just got to get out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Now we get
I
that.
kind of felt like, yeah, I kind of feel like y'all in this moment, I want the freedom to be able to live like how I want to without someone kind of like unexpectedly ruining my day. Like all I'm trying to do is just make my unit a little more livable and get it to the point where I can finally have guests over because I got a couch.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
something so simple just got
Yeah.
so chaotic, and then I found out some other things like no one in the complex really liked that guy. He just harassed everyone, and it was people who didn't even live in the area like knew him and they didn't like him. And I'm just like, what is happening? And why didn't I know this before? And why
Yeah.
didn't
He
anyone
is.
leave a
Yeah.
yeah, like why do you hate your wife so much? Yeah, so I feel you on how you kind of like overcame that moment and how you felt in that moment where things just didn't you were tired of people kind of like dictating how you want to live. Like you got mouths to feed, you got a life, that American dream, like you trying to stay on that path, and now it's just like, what, what's so good about it? If that's all that's gonna happen, you just gonna get harassed for living.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. So kudos to you all for finding a way and living the McCray way. We love to see it.
That's it. That's
Yeah.
where it was birthed.
Yep, that's how
To,
it
to
came
yeah,
out
you know
of
what I'm saying?
that.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, when we say we live on our terms, that's what we mean. We can't have no one telling, hey, you got to get out of here, or
Gotta do this.
your grass got to be a certain length, or no, we're not doing that no more.
No.
Oh my gosh, isn't that you don't have to cut grass. I love you don't have to cut grass.
That
Uh,
part. Goodness.
so how was the first few weeks for you all? Like once you got the RV and you mentioned like, oh, Steph, I gotta find a place to actually park the RV. How was that process?
Oh, I can tell you this: when we bought the RV, it was like, yo, we free, baby.
Yeah,
It's ours. You know what I'm saying? It's ours.
We did, because the kids were like, "This is
Yeah,
ours."
it's
Like
ours.
we can,
They were,
they were so excited. We went to Walmart. We were just buying stuff that we needed, and they were like, "Are you serious? This is ours." And we were like, "This is us." Yeah. We have to answer to no one. And my speech to them at that moment, because I felt like a proud person giving a speech like I had won an award. I said, listen, nobody can come in here and say, get out. Nobody can tell us to move. Nobody can tell us to do anything. Because guess what? It's ours. We paid cash for it, and our names are on it. Nobody can come and say anything. And they were like, so nobody's going to come and tell us that we got to move? I said, no, nobody can do any of that. So I think in that moment, we were very proud to say that we did it.
Yeah.
It was our did it moment.
I think when we bought it the first night, we stayed in a Walmart parking lot, because we didn't know where to go, but that was fine, you know what I'm saying? Because we were together, we had our own spot, and so now it was like, okay, let's do some research on where we go next. And then we found out that there was a campground in Jacksonville, Florida, that we could go there, pay a little fee to park, and it was right by the water on the beach. And it was a breath of fresh air, and we pulled in, and so at the time there was no truck, right?
Yeah,
so I tell people all the time
to pull the RV.
So when people say, well, how did you do it? We just bought the RV and figured it out later on. We learned on the fly. Yeah. So we got a U-Haul truck, pick up the RV, went to Walmart, went and got our furniture, our blankets, stayed there for the night. That following day, we got to a campground in Jacksonville, and the U-Haul, it was a perfect size. We pulled into our little spot right by the beach, and from there, we still had our other car, so we were still going to work back and forth, until we figured out, say, hey,
we need a permanent
spot. So we stayed there for a week.
Yep, we were there for.
It was a week. We were at the campground by the beach, but we loved it. We jumped. We went to the beach every day, saw the sunrise, and after that, that's when we found a permanent spot in Jacksonville for about 6 months. And so a campground is basically like when you pay, it's like paying month to month, right? So we paid a monthly fee, but we had 2 pools. We had free breakfast on the weekend. They had a laundry facility. There were more kids in the campground, so the kids had kids to play with. And you pay your little monthly fee, and then you go to work, and we came back, and we were still doing the same thing, going to work, coming back.
But we had
but it was ours though. We paid a small fee to park our RV, and that was it. We did that for about 6 months. That's fast forward. That's when we was like, still going to work. We still going to work, coming back home. Dream. Not really happy. Just paying bills, paying a car note and car insurance and all that. So that's when, fast forward 6 months later, then we was like, you know what?
Something got to
change.
Because I think he was sick of me coming home from work, and the first thing I would say was, instead of being like, oh, how was everybody's day? I would come in and be like, I'm sick of this. This is what happened at school today, and this is what I had to deal with, and this is what I got to do instead of being with my family, because being a teacher, you go home, you still got work to do. Yeah. And so I was like, oh my God. And my kids it would be to the point that I was missing stuff. It would be to the point that we were waking up so early that I would be dropping them off when it was dark, and we would get home some nights it would be nighttime. And I'm like, we leave when it's dark, come home when it's dark.
Right. I think that the issue was, like she said, the kids were going to school when it was dark because they were in before care. So we paid like a couple $100 for them to go to school early to sit there, and whether it was to watch a movie or eat snacks, and then school would start. And then we pay for aftercare because she still worked. You know, and you're not working from 10 to like 2 because you got kids. So you gotta do it 9 to 5, 8 to 4 or whatever. So therefore you gotta pay for kids to go to before care and after care. And our youngest, he was only at the time 3?
No.
4?
No, he was like 1 or 2.
Yeah,
so he was like 1 or 2.
And so now we're paying for a daycare. You know, daycare ain't cheap.
So all the money was going towards kids being away from us, not being with us, but being away from us.
Right, just so we can work. You know, so that's when it's like, it didn't feel right for us. I mean, for some people it worked, but for us it didn't. You know, to pay $1,000 a month for daycare and then add on before care and after care, it was like, you know what, it's time to bounce, man.
How can we change this?
Yeah, and so that's when we say, you know what, kids are getting out of school, they're gonna be homeschooled.
We're gonna quit our jobs.
Quit jobs and
we're gonna figure it out.
Figure it out from there. And so far, as you can see,
it's been going great.
Yay. Aw. Oh, I love this. Okay. Oh, and y'all keep saying kids. How old are the kids?
Okay, so our oldest is 13. We have 13, 10, 8, and a 6-year-old. Yep.
Okay. Were there any moments where maybe, because it sounded like they were pretty enthusiastic in the beginning, were there any moments where they kind of like questioned this journey? How was that addressed?
I think the only question our oldest had was she had friends at school.
Yeah, when we took them out of school, that's when we got the RV, they were excited because it was something different, something new for them. We were able to, they saw where we were staying and they were like, you telling me this is life? Like, this is my life right now? So they were excited about the RV. It was when we took them out of school that our oldest, she was like, I have friends. Yeah. I have stuff. Yeah. And so I was like, and being who I am, I told her, I said, if those friends are truly your friends, they will still be your friends no matter if you see them at school anyway. I said, because you're at school, y'all aren't socializing all day. I said, so if those are truly your friends, then they'll still be your friends. And so she was like, okay. Mm-hmm. And then every so often we would ask them, are you enjoying life? Do you like your lifestyle? And they would say, we enjoy it. Oh, and then we would keep asking them. And then I said, y'all want to go back to the regular way we used to live? And they go, no, don't do it. Please. We love this. And so every time we go somewhere or do something, we always ask them, you want to go back to the traditional life? Right. And they go, why would we want to do that? Yeah. We enjoy living the way we live now. Right. So
so we always make sure that they're okay with what we're doing. And so far no
they love it.
They love it. They enjoy it. And for friends, you know, we've been to over 21 states now, and they have friends in Tennessee. They have friends in Texas. They met a friend in Minnesota. So, I mean, so now, like, they know that you can have friends all over. Oh, yeah.
Do y'all have, like, a favorite destination as far as, like, having, like, the great accommodations, reasonable, like, parking fees per se, and you get kind of like the best of both worlds, like as like a tourist, but also living? Is that a thing, like, as you navigated those states?
I think as far as destination, my favorite was Omaha, Nebraska. Oh, you know, and it was a favorite because it was right off the Mississippi River, you know, and they had tons of few museums. You know, they had this gigantic playground area for kids and adults that was free again.
A lot of free stuff.
There were a lot of free exhibits. So since we homeschool, we look for places that have a lot of museums, exhibits, and art galleries so that the kids can learn something other than the traditional way of learning. So they have a lot of hands-on. So when we go places, look for hands-on things that we can go to for the kids. It's either not expensive or it's free for us to get into.
And Omaha checked
every box. Now, as far as like touristy, Chicago was a good vibe. Chicago was nice. Yeah. You enjoy Omaha?
Yeah, Omaha was nice because free. I mean, everything we did there, we did a lot. Was free, and the kids enjoyed it. We had accommodations for us to park. We didn't have any problems with that, and it's just
Great up.
Yeah.
As far as parking and like the price to be able to do that for a short or even like a long period of time. I don't even know what that's like as far as pricing is concerned, like or like a price like range. Because technically it's like you have like a piece of land that you're utilizing.
Like, so
it's mean like long term. You mean like longer term?
I guess in a sense both, like as you're traveling it's shorter term, but you're more so stationed out of Jacksonville, right? So what is that? What does the long-term aspect look like in Jacksonville? And then as far as like pricing is concerned, and then what's it like for you as you travel to like different states, like as far as price range?
So when we were at the park in Jacksonville, basically, it depends on how long you want to stay at these places. That's how they base the price off. So when we were at the one in Jacksonville, they had short-term stays, which were month to month, and then they also had long-term stays, which some of those people were there for years. And so it just depends on how long you want to stay. If you're there for, I think, monthly, some of the places base it off monthly. They have monthly prices for you. Now, if you are going to be a long-term person, they do base that a little different. Each park is different. It depends, because some parks that we've seen, the amenities, they add in all that different stuff like that.
I think we can base it off. So at our first long term in Jacksonville it's called Pecan Park, and we pay $900 a month for that, and we got, like I said, we had the 2 pools, and a jacuzzi, and you had the free breakfast, the free Wi-Fi, free electric, free water. And everything was included in that one price. Now, let's say over the summer we were in Texas, right? So that gets into how we actually make a little bit of money to pay for, car insurance, phone bill, whatever have you. So over the summer we were in Texas, and we work camped. And so what that means is we go work for a KOA campground for, it could be 2 months or 3 months or even 4 months. It could be longer. So we work for the campground, and what we pay is $190 for the entire month, and all the money we earned from our work week, that was completely ours. Right. But our first campground we stayed at, we work camped, which we stayed there for free, and when we worked, everything we earned was completely ours. Her chick was her chick, and mine was mine. And
we stayed there for free.
For free, yeah.
Now, when we go to the campgrounds and we're not working, some of them, most of the times we're staying at state parks. State parks are the cheaper routes to go, right, because they only charge, we haven't seen them charge anything over $30 a night. And then they also have a lot of things for you to do also in that aspect. And you never have to pay for it. We always have to tell people that because they don't understand. You're never paying for water and you're never paying for electricity. So you're basically just paying for that spot for that term that you're going to be there. So you never have any other amenities that you have to pay for. So if they have all these amenities at the park, they are all to your use for free because you've already paid for your spot.
Right. Yeah. Now, if we're traveling like how we are now, so right now we're not doing nothing, no gig. We just doing our content, still homeschooling and still traveling. Right now we're in Fort Pierce. We're just hanging out by the beach, And so if we go somewhere and travel, we had what you call Harvest Host, and we paid a membership, which was.
So the prices are different for that. You pay a yearly membership, and you're able to stay at farms, breweries, wineries, people's houses, and you're staying there all for free because you have the membership. And so we have that, and then we also do, if it's an overnight spot and we're not going to be in that place for a long period of time, you are able to park and stay at places like truck stops, Cracker Barrel, Walmart, Home Depot. All those places allow RVers to park, and some of them even have special places for RVers to park, and all of that is free.
So there's a wide range.
Like, what am I doing with my life right now? Okay.
So to give you a good example, right? This past year in October, we were coming down from North Dakota, right? So we stopped in Minnesota, and we stayed at a Harvest Host. And this lady, she had alpacas, and she had llamas, and next to her there were some horses, and we stayed there for three nights for free.
3 nights for free.
Yeah.
On her land, we didn't have to pay anything. She allowed us to hook up to her electricity and her water.
Yeah.
And that's all because we had that one membership that we paid that one price a year for. And the membership is like, I think we paid $80 for that membership. And we can stay at those nice places where when we stayed there at that Harvest Host, the places that you stay, you're either getting something in return, or you're learning something.
Or you're learning. Here's the kicker: the kids got to walk the llamas. The llamas and alpacas. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and feed them and all. Yeah, so it's a wide range.
And I always tell people it's so much cheaper than just living in a house because you don't have the electricity, you don't have the water bill, you don't have any of those things. All you're worrying about is where I'm going to park and how much is the parking going to be. And the parking and the price that you pay to stay at these places are going to be so much cheaper than what we used to pay in rent. And that was just rent alone.
Now, you can't go to a fancy resort and pay a lot of money if you want to. We will say that there are some campgrounds, they're called RV resorts, and they can get expensive because they're resorts. But we don't do that.
But they are still cheaper than paying the rent, electricity, and the water bill.
Yeah, that is true.
Just curious, because I looked at your site, like your kind of like your link tree and everything, that entails, but what's in the cards like in the future for you all? Like, are you gonna maybe travel internationally with the RV? Is that a thing? And also, do y'all have like a consulting business for people who aspire to have this type of lifestyle?
So it's funny you said that. As far as consulting, that's actually in the works right now.
We are working on that. We get so many inquiries about this lifestyle, even if it's just people we met on the road or people who message us because they see our content. Yeah. And so we're actually working on that as we speak. Now, the international part, as a family, we've talked about international, and international is on our plans. Yeah. Our thing as a family is we want to be able to show our kids the U.S. first before they go internationally, because a lot of people don't explore the U.S. and a lot of people don't know about the U.S. And so we want to give our children that knowledge and say that they've been to this place in the U.S. So when they do travel internationally, if somebody say, well, how is it in
how was it in Utah?
They can be able to say, well, I know how it is because I've been there. And so international travel is on our plan. As far as the RV, you cannot bring your own RV internationally, but when you do go internationally, you can rent an RV for the time period that you're there, and you can do RV traveling there. It depends on where you're going.
Yeah.
I get it. I get why they wouldn't allow you like your own RV. Gosh, man, they just make it so hard for people. But I get it. Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna definitely add the links to those who stuck and made it out to the end and didn't hear me the first time. But if you like to connect with Lola and Josh and how they live the McCray way, I will definitely add that to the description of this episode, which you can catch on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. But one last question for y'all. Now that you've had a wealth of opportunity to experience this lifestyle, and you've been through the whole process of navigating life for so long, like from being a teen till now, and like I can imagine that your just how you saw life, in the very end, like growing old, like that concept and just that mindset just transformed throughout the years. But now that you've been living this lifestyle for a very long time, what words of advice would you give the younger version of yourself that was in Florida in the house, or even when you all were in California and you had like such bright dreams for your future? I mean, what words of advice would you give to that younger version of yourself?
For me, I would probably say buy the RV sooner.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now I would say it's going to work out. As it always does. Our thing, we always say it always works out. What I'm saying? No matter what you're going through in life, whether you're having 9 to 5 or you have a career or you're going in between jobs, in between houses, it's going to work out. And if you look back over your life and see all the things you've been through, it always works out. It may not be what you want it to be at that time, but for some strange reason, it did work out. So I would tell my younger self, it's going to work out. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. I like that. I'm piggyback off of what you just said. Yeah, because I like that. Yeah, it's going to work out. Like everything that you've been through thus far and everything that you see for yourself is going to work out. I like that. Yeah. That don't stress about the little things.
Right.
Because the picture is much bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got bigger fish to fry.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds good, fish.
Right.
Red snapper.
We had some earlier too.
Yeah,
Fresh
we
caught.
had some earlier.
Oh, I love that fresh caught. That's the only way.
It was fresh caught. He caught it, brought it back to the RV. I cooked it, and we ate it right in that moment.
But that being said, I'm about to go eat. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much, Josh and Lola, for being my guest on this episode. It was truly an honor, I swear, and a breath of fresh air to see people who kind of like y'all. That's literally my mindset of wanting to just kind of like lay a little bit and live life on my own terms. And yeah, that like I really admire what y'all are doing, and I can't wait to see your platform grow and expand even more. And I can't wait for people to listen to this who are on the outside of the US looking in. You don't have to have that fancy, shiny house. You really don't. To be real, it comes with a lot of stipulations anyways. But I mean, some people want that. If you absolutely want it, have at it. But you don't have to have that. You can still live the good life, and you don't need all of that. You really don't. And Josh and Lola are here to prove that. So thank you so much for tuning into another episode of the Relocate Podcast. I'll see y'all every Wednesday with a new episode, so don't miss it. Make sure you subscribe, like, follow, comment, and let me know what other content you like to see.